songs and tales fall utterly short of the reality, O Smaug, the chiefest and greatest of calamities. Welcome to Biblioventures, The Hobbit, Episode 10, Chapter 12, Inside Information from the Rosenbach Museum and Library in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I am Edward G. Pettit, and returning tonight as co-host is Graeme Cheadle. Hi, Graeme.
Hey Edward, how's it going? Nice to be back.
Good. Hey, I'm always happy when people return. Like
Yes.
it was worth it. I'll give it one more shot.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, this is great.
Are you drinking anything special?
I am. I'm just on beer again, but I just to show I was at the bar the other night and my trivia team got third place. So we got this matcha beer we got to take home. It's called Mo beer. It's got a dragon on it, which I thought was kind of
Oh, yeah.
Asian dragon, but it's odd. It's green tea infused beer, but it's somehow actually good.
All right. Well, I'm all dragon themed today, and I came up with a cocktail, and it's the Smaug cocktail.
Nice.
And it is, I mean, it was going to be a martini, and then I went from there. If you note, there's gold dust in my
Oh,
in my glass here.
cool, cool. Oh yeah, yeah.
And the cocktail I went for to be red,
Nice.
although it's a little pinkish orange.
That's cool.
That was just the way it turned out. A
Yeah,
little more gold, edible gold glitter on it. Oh, it's all in there already. I don't know if
nice.
you can see it, but I figured red gold, nah, you can't
Yes.
see the glitter so much.
Suspended gold. Hmm.
And um and of course, for the garnish, dragon fruit.
Mm.
So there we go. I'm gonna definitely use a little straw. So
Got
there's
yourself
not
fit
red
for a dragon.
my
Mm.
mustache when I'm done.
Yes. Nice.
It's good. It's not a traditional martini. It is gin, but I use Lillet Blanc, which is a little sweet. And I thought that would go better with the dragon fruit.
Yeah,
So
makes sense. Smog's favorite.
yeah. And it's just red food coloring. I thought about all kinds of different colors of things that
Mm.
I could do. And I actually did red food coloring and it came out too pink. And I added a teaspoon of maraschino cherry
Oh,
juice,
there you go. Yeah,
which I love it. I could just drink out of the jar anyway.
sure. Yeah.
But it didn't overpower the gin. I can still taste the gin. It's still a cocktail. I'm not much for super sweet, fruity thing. I'll
Right.
drink them sometimes, but not over like one, not over
Right.
the
Yeah.
course of the whole show.
Yeah, exactly.
No. And I'm already on my shaker there. So that's the Smaug. So the chiefest and greatest of calamities.
Yes.
All righty. All of you, you can add to the chat what you're drinking. Or you can just send it to me, or you can do some Glenmorangie there. Somebody drinking good scotch. Um, uh, Always feel free to send me cocktail or drink suggestions by email if you like, and if I really like it, maybe I'll use it. Um, but thank you all for tuning in to this episode. We bring our Biblioventures series to you for free, and there are many other Biblioventures series you can watch on our YouTube channel. If you would like to support the Rosenbach through donation or by becoming a member, I would sincerely appreciate it. You can do this at our website, rosenbach.org. Your support helps us create programs like this, these Biblioventure shows, and also to care for our collections, including our first American edition of The Hobbit that we have. And I'd like to always thank the Wyncote Foundation for their support of Biblioventures. Our American first edition of The Hobbit was purchased with funds granted us by the Wyncote Foundation, whose mission is to support efforts that strengthen and enrich culture, community, and the natural environment. The Wyncote Foundation has been a good friend of the Rosenbach for many years now, and probably since their inception, and we thank them for their support. A reminder, everyone, our approach in this Biblioventure series, especially if it's the first time watching, I had a couple of new registrations this week. So maybe
Mm.
maybe you're watching the first one, or maybe you start at the beginning. I don't know. We're imagining that we're trying to read The Hobbit as it was in itself, as a standalone book for 17 years, not as part of the great Tolkien legendarium connected to Lord of the Rings. Although we have a segment at the end of the show called The Thane's Book, where we do talk about things that that in whatever chapter we're doing that reflect on Lord of the Rings or the greater legendarium. Although I didn't put any Thane's book stuff together for this episode, Graham. I don't know if
Okay.
you did. I felt like, but if anything comes up while we're talking, we can save it. But
Yeah,
this is a really well-contained chapter for what it is, and there might be enough.
definitely.
So we'll see. And also, no spoilers. We will not talk about later chapters of The Hobbit. Today, we
Right.
only talk about what happens up to chapter 12. And please keep that in the chat as well. I also have more dragon stuff today.
Hmm.
Graham, I have a special pipe. I got out my
Dragon pipe.
dragon pipe.
Oh,
There it is.
wow.
A nice dragon on it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Um, and I thought I would smoke it, and it's big too. It's got a big long
Yeah.
stem.
It's good
So
for a dragon. Yeah.
I'll smoke the dragon pipe while we talk about this today. Oh, it's not just the dragon pipe, not just the dragon pipe. I mentioned on a previous episode, maybe one of the early ones, that um, we know at least one tobacco that Tolkien liked and smoked, and that was Capstan Blue Navy Cut. And it used to be regularly available in the US, and I used to get it frequently. I liked smoking it. And then sometime a while ago, it became unavailable.
Hmm.
And it is available again. It's been available for probably a while. I just haven't been checking.
Okay.
So I got my Capstan
Ah,
Navy Cut tobacco. So
cool.
the tobacco I'm smoking would have tasted something like what Tolkien tasted. I mean,
That's
it's not going to
cool.
exact over time. These
Yeah.
it's Virginia, and it's a navy cut, which means that it's pressed into these flakes, and you have to rub it
Ah,
out before you put it in. So
okay.
little smoking instruction for you adults out there.
Mhm.
But Graham, well, for Tolkien Reading Day, you went whole hog. You not only did the soundscape, which we talk about, but also
Yeah.
I want to hear about you reading Old English, Tolkien in Old English, which you posted on our Facebook group.
I did. Thank you. Yeah. For people who might not know, I think we talked about it the last time when I was here, but March 25th is Tolkien Reading Day. It has been since I think 2003, where the Tolkien Society encourages fans to, alone or with groups of friends, just to do a little reading of your favorite passage. And in the last few years, it's really grown into something kind of large. There are viewing parties, there's in-person events you can go to, and so on. Um, and a friend of mine, Jordan Rennells, has a soundscape project where he takes, I think this year was like 100 people, and they just read little pre-recorded segments from their favorite. Silmarillion was mine, but we had Lord of the Rings, he had The Hobbit, and others. And he stitched it all together in a really long video that was posted last Sunday. In addition to that, just kind of out of my own interest, and I did this reading for a couple other groups as well. I read the prologue to the Fellowship of the Ring movie, the whole part read by Galadriel in the movie, in Old English. So there's a scholar out there, or an amateur guy maybe, who translated that into Old English. It's about a 5-minute passage if you take out the battle scenes and so on in that part. And I read it basically the whole beginning part up to the Bilbo finding the ring in Old English, which was a lot of fun. And a lot of friends of mine are big Tolkien people, so if you tell them sort of where they are, they can pick it up because some words haven't changed much, but most of them have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was fabulous. You posted it on our Facebook group. People could go there, watch that. Join it just to watch that. It's your pronunciation was really, really good. Now, I'm not a complete expert in Old English, never been that kind of scholar, but it's something
Right.
I've kind of dabbled in, since college, for over 30 years.
Same with me. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
was
that
fun.
was a lot of fun.
It was fun. The pronunciation is great. It's not actually that if you study it a little bit, there's the different letters you got to get used to, but after that it's okay. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I hope you all had fun on Tolkien Reading Day, everyone watching. I was busy preparing this show on
No
Tolkien.
doubt.
I was reading Tolkien
Yes, you
related
were.
or actual Tolkien that day. I'm not sure which it was, but all I did was send out a couple posts to commemorate.
Nice.
All righty. Well, we should get into this. Graham, the company, Thorin and Bilbo and the dwarves, they were since you have last been here,
Yes.
they were captured by the wood elves, escaped the wood elves, stopped in Lake Town, which at the time when we did that episode, I did not, was that last episode? I don't know.
I think so, maybe. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't mention that this was the very first time in this book that we actually see humans.
That's right. Men. Yeah.
And I hadn't thought, like, we've heard mention of these strange
Yeah.
creatures in this world, the woodmen, but not actually seen any until they arrive at Lake Town. The one
Yeah.
exception actually might be in Tolkien's mind when he's first writing it,
Yeah.
actually might have been Gandalf, in that
Yeah.
he had not come up with this history where Gandalf is another kind of being yet. So maybe he's
Hmm.
just a man who, as a wizard, is just a man who learns magic.
Right. And
Especially
he,
as his most magical thing he does is just make colored smoke rings. Like, doesn't seem
yeah.
to have some kind of supernatural power. And
I mean, through the book, you see a little bit more suggestions, but not maybe what we would assume or associate with wizards in our own time, popular culture, and so on. I do think he's described as someone who looks like a man, an older man, and of course we get Beorn, right? And Beorn's kind of a man too,
yeah,
but a very special kind that
no,
doesn't.
he could turn into a bear. So
Yeah, that's not a regular guy.
there isn't necessarily, just a human, and we don't know
Yeah.
everything about that, but it's especially interesting, I think, because we encounter all these other creatures and we don't, and we have to be explained about, like, and you know nobody, well, anyway, all right, this is for later. There's a thing
Mhm.
later I want to get into about
Yeah.
Hobbit. Good, all righty. But yes, well, okay, so now they've reached the mountain thanks to our hero Bilbo, who I think on his if you got a character sheet for Bilbo in his skill listings, luck has to be there, like stealth,
Yeah.
short sword, luck. I mean, it's definitely a thing that he has that he can use.
Yeah.
Um, and they've managed to find the secret door in time. Again,
Hmm.
thanks to Bilbo,
Just.
who tells them, like, we
Yes.
got to find the door quick. And so the last light of Durin's day will shine upon the lock. And then they get the key out in time. Again, thanks to Bilbo.
Yeah.
The key. And now, of course, everything will be just fine, right? So we're good. The dwarves are
Yeah.
happy. Hey, we made it. Unveiling the mission accomplished banner. Great rejoicing. Except there's still a dragon. So
Yeah.
any thoughts on where we've come through to get to this point?
Well, a trend that I think was becoming clear last time I was here, and then with the other co-hosts is Bilbo's luck is becoming more evident and repeated, but also his confidence and his importance to the quest. In fact, even a bit more in this chapter when we get into it, but the dwarves seem increasingly a little bit ridiculous. They haven't planned things very well. They didn't think this far ahead. They kind of get easily discouraged, maybe with the exception of one or two, very very often. And Bilbo has to keep kind of dragging them back, and then they kind of get upset with him again. But oh no, no, of course you're right, Mr. Bilbo. No, and then they're deferential to him again, and this keeps going on and on and on. And they rely more and more and more on this guy who is added to be the lucky number.
Yeah, and they're starting to respect him
Yeah,
more. We'll see even more of that in this chapter. It's like it keeps mounting the amount of respect and the amount of leadership that Bilbo shows.
yeah, yeah, clearly.
All righty. Well, here we go with chapter 12, Inside Information. Actually, a really lovely understated title,
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
chapter where we meet the greatest and chiefest of calamities. But all the chapter titles are light and sometimes a bit riddling.
Yeah,
And I mean, and as fits a children's book, much different than the chapters that will come up and say Lord of the Rings, which are
right.
more prominent or more mythical and sound, some of them.
Mm.
Inside information. Well, actually, we should start with the last sentence of chapter 11. It seemed as if darkness, they opened the door, they
Hmm.
pushed the door open, It seemed as if darkness flowed out like a vapor from the hole in the mountainside, and deep darkness in which nothing could be seen lay before their eyes, leading in and down.
Yeah.
And then for a long time, the dwarves stood in the dark before the door and debated until at last Thorin spoke. Of course, like
Hmm.
every time something happens, right? The dwarves going to be like, let's have a conference.
Yeah.
Let's decide what to do. I don't know if they're exceptionally democratic or just exceptionally uncertain about
Yeah,
what.
indecisive. Yeah.
And their conferences usually end with either Bilbo or Gandalf just stating the obvious decision before them. Well, we just have to do this. And,
Yeah.
and here the what it comes up to is Thorin. Well, first he compliments Bilbo, right?
Yeah.
Good companion, full of courage and resource, good luck, far exceeding the usual allowance. That's we'll see the word luck is used 12 times in this chapter, so it's really coming
Mm.
into play. This is an important thing for Tolkien to use in this book. I mean, Thorin certainly appreciates Bilbo's skills, but it's still okay. We hired the burglar, now he's got to burgle.
Yeah.
And Bilbo's not that happy.
He's not particularly happy to even be here at all.
If you mean you think it is my job to go into the secret passage first, O Thorin Thrain's son Oakenshield, I love that he throws all that together. May your beard grow ever longer, he said crossly. So say so at once and have doubt. I might refuse. But he's Bilbo, and he's not going to refuse.
Yeah.
And he even has a saying, right? One of his sayings. We are told in the early in Riddles in the Dark that we did together that
Right.
hobbits can move very quietly, hide
Yeah.
easily, recover wonderfully from falls and bruises, and they have a fund of wisdom and wise sayings that men who have
Yes.
never heard or have forgotten long ago. And this is one of them. This is the one he's got from his father. Third time pays for all, which Tolkien also used in his translation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
That's right. Yeah.
Um, there is I think I saw this in the in the Anderson annotated that there was
Yes.
a passage in there that and Tolkien even translates exactly that. Third time pays for all.
Yes.
So, but what really Tolkien was doing in translating that passage was he was quoting Bilbo's father, um,
Yeah.
who must have come up with that long before.
Apparently, and it's a conceit that Tolkien uses throughout his all of his writings that some of our expressions actually came from way back
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
Yeah. All righty. Bilbo says, yes, I'll go in. And he says, now who's coming with me? And that's crickets. That's exactly what it was. It was like nobody. Nobody's, they all take a step back. Maybe that's why it's Balin, because maybe they all took a step back except Balin. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, you volunteered. Um, but no, Balin is increasingly becoming the nice dwarf out of all of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
He wants to help Bilbo as much as he can. And they but he says he'll go with him, but only a little way. Um
Yeah. Very little.
just part of the way he'll go in until he can still see the door. And then Bilbo is on his own. And then we get this because we've been talking about this all along. This little passage here about the dwarves in general, their
Hmm.
race and what they're like. And it has been surprising to I'm still a little surprised when I come back to the book and realize, oh yes, that's what the dwarves are like. They're kind of bumbling and not, very heroic and all of
Yeah.
it. But we get this little passage here. Do you want to read that? They would the most can be said of George. Just
The
read it.
mo Oh, okay, sure, yeah. The most that can be said for the dwarves is this. They intended to pay Bilbo really handsomely for his services. They had brought him to do a nasty job for them, and they did not mind the poor little fellow doing it if he would, but they would have all done their best to get him out of trouble if he got into it, as they did in the case of the trolls at the beginning of their adventures before they had any particular reasons for being grateful to him. There it is. Dwarves are not heroes, but calculating folk with a great idea of the value of money. Some are trickery and treacherous and pretty bad lots. Some are not, but are decent enough people like Thorin and company, if you don't expect too much. It's not a ringing endorsement.
It's it's not. You know, just that, they pay people to do things. And they're not going to do them, but at least that we get that, like, they'll help you.
Yeah, they're
And
fair. Yeah,
like they did with the trolls
yeah,
that, was mentioned before too on the somebody in the chat I remember mentioned it. I was like, yeah, the trolls don't do anything, and then but no, they actually they did go in to save him.
they were kind of bumbling about it, but they did try. Yeah,
Yes. And they are, but that whole last line, that they are not heroes, but calculating folk with a great idea of the value of money. Some are tricky and treacherous and pretty bad lots. Now we don't see any treacherous ones
no,
in, certainly not in this company, and uh although we still haven't gotten to the end.
yeah,
And but in Tolkien's legendarium, and he has already written about dwarves like that early
yeah,
on, if
yeah,
not more like that.
different. Yeah,
And it's the but it's still, this assessment doesn't seem to match up with what we later see of dwarves and, say, Lord of the Rings, in which they're
Mm,
much more
I agree. Yeah. In
hereditary and
fact,
capable.
arguably, even by the end of this book, I think there's a bit more. It almost seems to me that this is a narrative intrusion of someone who doesn't really like dwarves that much, right? But not Bilbo maybe, but almost like Bilbo at that moment. But then when other things happen later, I think his opinion changes a little bit. And
Yeah,
certainly by Lord of the Rings, yeah,
yeah. And even later in the greater legendarium and Lord of the Rings, but also the kind of um well, later, what in other works, not the Hobbit, they kind of match up more with, dwarves are closer to the dwarves that you meet in Icelandic Eddas,
yeah,
Germanic legends, that kind of thing. But in this book, they're ordinary.
yeah.
In a sense, they're as ordinary as Bilbo is, in a way.
Yeah, they're mythical creatures to us, but for Bilbo, for the hobbits, they knew dwarves existed. They weren't best friends with them, but they know they're out there somewhere, right? But also these are dwarves in exile, and there is suggestion that, especially in this chapter, that Thorin's ancestors were much mightier and more
Yeah,
powerful and
we
higher
keep
and
talking
greater.
about those stories. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And and I talked when we first began this whole difference, and Tom Shippey talks about this in his, Road to Middle Earth and Author of the Century, that the bourgeois Bilbo,
yes,
because he's very
yeah,
middle class, in outlook and
yeah,
a viewpoint, and the dwarves are not actually that far from that in this description that we get from them here.
right,
They're like a merchant class.
yeah, yeah.
That's what they're about. They're about business, and we don't need to be heroes, because we're trying to, we're good at accounting.
Contracts and
Yes.
lawyers. Yeah, yeah,
But we'll save you if you need saving.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Well, we made a deal. We're going to honor the deal. Yeah,
but again, that's almost like, well, we hired him. We got to get save him, because he's
yeah.
now, he
We're
still has
we're
a job.
liable.
But they were willing to leave him behind back in the
Yes.
in the goblins' minds.
They
They were
felt a
willing.
little. They felt a bit bad about it, but yeah, yeah.
So we've got, it's more important. The mission is more important. We have to leave him. Gandalf
It's
said.
true. I mean, he signed off on this, right? He accepted the liability.
Well, Bilbo heads down into the tunnel, and um this is a different Bilbo.
Yeah,
Balin bade him good luck, and then Bilbo slips on the ring. He was trembling with fear, but his little face was set and grim.
Mm.
Already, he was a very different hobbit. I say he's a different hobbit. The text tells me so. He
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
very different hobbit from the one that had run out without a pocket handkerchief from Baggin long ago. He had not had a pocket handkerchief for ages. He loosened his dagger in its sheath, tightened his belt, and went on.
Mm.
And then a little bit after that, dear me, starts to think though, like, what a fool I was and am, said the least tookish part of him, which also means there is a most tookish part of him,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is probably pushing him on. I have absolutely no use for dragon guarded treasures. Well, wait till you see it.
Mm.
And and now we get to the dragon. Um, there's a glow, and there's a red light, and it's getting redder and redder, and now it's hot in the tunnel. And then he hears the sound throb in his ears like a bubbling noise of a large pot galloping on the fire, mixed with the rumble as of a gigantic tomcat purring. Apparently, dragon snoring sounds a lot like purring.
Yeah, which is interesting.
A gigantic cat.
Gigantic, yeah. Yeah.
Um, and Bilbo stops, and going on from there was the bravest thing he ever
Mm.
did. The tremendous things that
Yeah.
happened afterward were nothing, whereas nothing compared to it. He fought the real battle in the tunnel alone before he
Mm.
ever saw the vast danger that lay in wait. You
Mm.
can picture him, a line later. I love that. You can picture him. But the bravest thing. I go on about luck all through this book, but
Yeah.
this is also a book about bravery,
Yeah.
and which a seemingly simple concept, that you think, oh, that's not very extraordinary in a modern novel to be about bravery. Well, for Tolkien, for a man who went through the
Hmm.
First World War and lost his friends in it, and bravery is an enormous concept,
Hmm.
for Tolkien and his time, and also just for anyone. It's just that even in the most ordinary situations, you fight the real battles alone, or when you fight the real battles alone, that's when you're most brave.
Yeah.
No
When you're really
company,
tested. Yeah.
no company, nobody behind you, next to
No
you.
Gandalf. Yeah.
And there's a lot in this novel about that and how extraordinary that is, and how that here's a character who overcomes it.
Yeah.
I do really think of Tolkien in the war and
Hmm.
those kinds of passages when he's going through them, because he doesn't write it up in the kind of jingoistic, or not jingo,
No.
in the kind of way that, like,
But
oh,
even
like big war.
sensational.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's difficult to be brave.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he recognizes that. Well, here he is. We're not going to show the picture yet from the text. I'm going to wait till the second time when Bilbo
Ah,
has the conversation, because that's where it's
yeah.
from.
Yeah.
So here we just get the description. Um, there he lay, a vast red golden dragon, fast asleep. Thrumming came from his jaws and nostrils, and wisps of smoke, but his fires were low in slumber. He has a huge coiled tail, and there were countless piles of precious things, gold, wrought and unwrought, gems and jewels and silver, red stained in the ruddy light. Smaug lay with wings folded like an immeasurable bat, and his long pale belly was crusted with gems and fragments of gold from his long lying on his costly bed.
Mm.
Um, the treasure aside, Tolkien loves dragons.
Yeah. Yes.
One quote from him: dragons always attracted me as a mythological element. They seem to be able to comprise human malice and bestiality together, a sort of malicious wisdom and shrewdness,
Mm.
terrifying creatures.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, he loves dragons, and we see him there. There's in the Cimmerillion, there's Glowrund,
Yes.
dragons from the north. There's Ancalagon, is that how you say his name? Ancalagon
Yes.
Black.
That's right. Yeah. Hmm.
These are all other dragons that he's
Gotha.
already
Yeah.
been writing about.
Yeah.
He has them in his other children's books, Rover Random.
Yes.
Farmer Giles of Ham have dragons.
Yeah.
They turn up in a lot of his books. And on fairy stories, and I mean, the most famous dragons are, he mentions them in that, I forget, it's Fafnir from the Volsung cycle,
Right.
the Norse
Yep.
cycle. There's the Beowulf
And the
dragon.
Beowulf dragon. Yeah. And
One more.
those two in particular, in the Anderson mentions those two in particular, but yeah, I'm sure there's other ones.
But he says in on fairy stories, here's a little bit of a long quote. Best of all, the nameless north of Sigurd of the Volsungs and the prince of all dragons, that's Fafnir. Such lands were preeminently desirable. I never imagined that the dragon was of the same order as the horse. And that was
Mm.
not solely because I saw horses daily, but never even the footprint of a worm. The
Mm.
dragon had the trademark of fairy written plain upon him. In whatever world he had his being, it was an other world. Fantasy, the making or glimpsing of other worlds, was the heart of the desire of fairy. I desired dragons with a profound desire. Um, it's all the whole idea of fairy stories for him can be encapsulated in dragons. This is like, if you want it, almost as if he's saying in that, and there's a lot he talks about in this great essay on fairy stories, which
Yes.
everybody should read.
It's really good.
But you can almost encapsulate it in a sense, say like dragons. That's what it means. Now,
Yeah.
not every fairy story has a dragon, but
Yeah.
but when you do the dragon right, or in his way, do it right, it can encapsulate what the whole
Yeah.
idea of fairy is about.
Yeah.
He even lectured on dragons once. This is fascinating. And this was in History of the Hobbit and John Ratliff's History of the Hobbit. In Tolkien gave a lecture at the Oxford Natural History Museum,
Mm.
and on dragons. And here's a bit of a summation. It's some of it is oh no, this is all from the manuscript, I think. Tolkien's manuscript regarding encounters with dragons. No, it's partly I'm sorry, it's partly Ratliff summarizing and it leaves Tolkien's quotes. Regarding encounters with dragons, Tolkien warns that a dragon will first try to catch your eye and then get your name in order to curse you before he dies with evil magic. Smaug, of course, tries to do both.
Mm-hmm.
It was and this is a quote from Tolkien, it was the function of dragons to tax the skill of heroes and still more to tax other things, especially courage and fortune.
Mm.
Armies, he maintains, are no use at all, nor would modern weaponry avail. Tolkien writes, machine gun bullets are usually no more troublesome to them than a cloud of gnats. Armies cannot overcome them. Poison gas is a sweet breath to them. They invented it. Bombs are their amusement. I mean, he's writing about World War One here.
Yeah.
Writing about. Instead, dragons can only be defeated by brave men, usually alone. Sometimes a faithful friend may help. That happens in Beowulf, but it is rare. Friends have a way of deserting you when a dragon comes. This is certainly the experience of Beowulf and Thorin in this whole
very much. Yeah.
story. Finally, dragons are the final test of heroes, requiring luck or grace, a blessing on your hand and heart. God. So that all right. Thank you for watching tonight. What more do I need to say?
Yeah.
Dragons are enormously important to him, and I think this pays off pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
We also get a description of treasure here.
Mm-hmm.
All the countless piles of precious things, the gold, wrought and unwrought, and all this. And to say that, and there's from the text, to say that Bilbo's breath was taken away is no description at all. There are no words left to express his staggerment. I love that word.
Great word.
Since men changed the language that they learned of elves in the days when all the world was wonderful. Bilbo had heard tell and sing of dragon hordes before, but the splendor, the lust, the glory of such treasure had never yet come home to him. His heart was filled and pierced with enchantment and with the desire of dwarves. And he gazed motionless, almost forgetting the frightful guardian of the gold beyond price and count. Graham, he's just seen his first dragon.
Yes, has he ever?
And what is he most staggered by?
by by the treasure.
The treasure.
The hoard.
I am fascinated by that. And that's, but it's obviously, I think the point Tolkien's making is that this dragon sickness, this desire of the dwarves, this enchantment that can come on people by looking at treasure, is so is so detrimental to your health. But it's just fascinating because to say Bilbo's breath was taken away, yeah, because you saw a dragon. Oh no, because you saw the treasure he was lying on.
That he almost forgot the guardian, who was admittedly asleep, but nonetheless.
So there's a bit about this line here. All right. If I want to save this for later. Now we'll get into it now. Well, first of all, this enchantment and desire of dwarves. I don't know if we want to go into that too much. We can't, because that's going to come into play later.
It'll be later, yeah.
People should put a pin on that. But it's important that he mentions it here. And this is all part of this idea that he has going on of what treasure can inspire in people.
Another very old idea.
But this great line here, a couple lines. There are no words left to express his staggerment since men changed the language that they learned of elves in the days when all the world was wonderful.
Yeah.
There are long annotations on this.
There are, yes.
That all seem to have to do with one of Tolkien's friends, maybe more a professional friend than a close friend, Owen Barfield, who was one of the Inklings who came to some of the meetings and wrote some books, and he wrote books on language, especially mythic language and the origins of language. Verlyn Flagger writes about this in her great book on Tolkien's Splintered Light, about Barfield's ideas of how language begins and how it encapsulates everything, and then later has to change as, I guess, kind of nuance and metaphor come into lives. So
yeah.
And in the beginning, when people would come up with words, they didn't need that. There was no metaphor needed. It was just, you were just calling everything what it is.
Literal. Yeah.
But go ahead. Do you have anything on that? Because
I'm by no means an expert on Barfield, but poetic diction in 1928 was an important work in this field. I mean, I think Barfield also was kind of I think it's called a theosophist, which was a kind of philosophy at the time. It's kind of obscure, kind of almost disappeared now, but it seems to have had some effect on
the Theosophical Society. They still have offices.
It still exists. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know a lot about it. I read a little bit about it, but Barfield was in some sources he's just kind of depicted as one of the core of the Inklings, but as it says, as the Douglas Anderson book notes, he was often actually in London, so he's only there sometimes in Oxford. He was a closer friend of Lewis, but it does seem that that book in particular inspired Tolkien in some ways. When I first read that line, when the men learned the language of elves, I was thinking actually some of the Silmarillion stuff, where in one of the versions, the elves kind of meet humans and teach them their first language. So kind of almost an in-world reference. But also, I think, quoting Flieger here at some length, it's something else going on where there was a time, a mythical time, when words just meant their own thing, but that's been splintered and lost, and now you need a whole bunch of words to have metaphorical references to things rather than the things themselves, which gets quite complicated quickly, but it's an interesting rabbit hole.
They and I don't even need to go down that rabbit hole, because these lines themselves are like, this is like earlier in one of those earlier chapters when suddenly he's listing the kinds of elves that list in the world, that exist in this world, and we get a little bit of the mythology of Middle Earth here. That people, humans, learned language from elves,
Right.
which is a big thing. Like humans weren't the first beings in this world,
No.
um, but they learned their language from elves and then changed it.
Yeah.
And there was a time, it says, when all the world was
Was
wonderful.
wonderful.
Now,
Yeah.
this doesn't mean when everything was great. That's the way
No.
we use wonderful now. Oh, it's wonderful.
Yes.
That's what he means it literally. When we
Full of
are,
wonder. Yeah.
yes, that there was a time when the world was completely full of wonders.
Right.
And over time, I guess this is what this means. Over time, as we get accustomed to the world, language changes to express the ordinariness of the world. It is not
Mm.
a world full of wonders now. It is just I see this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So language now has to change. It doesn't have the same, beauty and ring and splendor to it because
Mm.
things aren't wonderful anymore,
In
full
the
of
same
wonder
way.
anymore. Um,
Yeah.
that and I think there's also a little hint in there that it also means the world is not as beautiful as it once was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it was, then, I mean, I know it's not the same thing as being beautiful and full of wonder, but
Mm.
they're a bit related. I don't know if this is
There,
Roman Catholicism, Eden is
yeah.
on, but
There's something there that can get picked up on. Maybe we'll mention it later, but there's something there that reminds me of a part in Lord of the Rings later. Yeah.
yeah. But this stopped me in my tracks just reading this even and then I read the Anderson and like, oh, there's all kinds of notes on this, and then
Yeah.
History of the Hobbit, there's all kinds of notes on this. But that line itself, I just stopped me because we get a little bit of mythology of this world within this tale, and it's just very slight, and there's a lot in that. There's a lot packed into that little sentence.
Yeah.
All righty. And we touched on it a little bit. So there we go. So Bilbo, his reaction to all this is he grasps the great two-handed cup and booked it out of there. Smaug stirred a wing, opened a claw, but Bilbo fled and he got away with it. So he is as he's going away, he says, oh well, Smaug shifted into other dreams of greed and violence.
Yeah.
And Bilbo's chief thought was, I've done it. This will show them more like a grocer than a burglar indeed. Well, we'll hear no more of that. Um, he is he's become the burglar.
Yeah.
He tried to do it with the trolls, pickpocketed one of them,
Yeah.
failed.
Didn't work.
Trolls, purses, talk.
Yeah.
Lucky this cup didn't, and he's able to run out with it. And it's vindication for him.
Hmm.
He really wants to prove that he can do this. And the of course the dwarves are overjoyed. They pick him up, they carry him out into the open air. This is this is now when they're flying their mission accomplished banner. Whoa, it's a mission accomplished. We've done it.
Uh-huh.
Bilbo just lay with his eyes shut, gasping and taking pleasure in the feel of the fresh air again. They praise him, they patting him on the back, and it's just everything is just hunky dory. But again, they're celebrating while there is a dragon.
Yeah.
The whole mountain starts to rumble. Dwarves forgot their joy and their confident boast of a moment before and cowered down in fright. Smaug was still to be reckoned with. It does not do to leave a live dragon out of your calculations.
Yes.
That he knows, like, he knows every every jewel, every coin. There's a cup.
Hmm.
He knows if it's gone. And then there's a little and oh, Tolkien has a great joke here, right? Um
Yes. One of my favorites.
read that.
Um, yes. So of Smaug, when he recognizes the cup's missing, his rage passes description. The sort of rage that is only seen when rich folk that have more than they can enjoy suddenly lose something that they have long had but have never before used or wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. Although you can, although that could be for just about anybody.
Yeah, I suppose.
So, oh, I don't believe you. I lost that. Well,
The thing that I forgot I had.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, thieves, fire, murder. He's just in a rage. Oh, that splendor. One cup, and he's
Yeah.
complete rage.
And he, how did he even know? But dragons know. And he also smelled something strange in
Yeah,
his cave, right?
a breath of strange air in his cave.
Yeah.
And he thinks that there's a door there that he's always thought of blocking it up, and he doesn't know what it is, and it's the door that leads to the secret. It's the tunnel that leads to the secret door.
Yeah.
But he's also having a dream, and we want to remember this dream. So this will come into play throughout. But for here, it is he has an uneasy dream in which a warrior,
Hmm.
altogether insignificant in size, who could that be?
Yeah.
Provided with a bitter sword, who could that be? With great courage,
Hmm.
figured most unpleasantly.
Yes.
He has a dream about a little person, a little small warrior who's going to cause trouble for him, and
Hmm.
it's significant that it's I don't know. Is it premonition? Is it prophecy? Is it something's going on in his dreams that, or is he? It's because the dragon is aware of what's going around him in some strange way.
Yeah.
But it's important, and that I will talk about it in episodes from now as well. Um, well, Bilbo now has to save the dwarves again,
Yeah.
because they're as they're all panicking. There they would have all been killed as then Smaug comes out, and now he's flying around the mountain, and uh they would have all been killed if it had not been for Bilbo once again. Quick, quick, he gassed the tunnel, it's no good here, and they go in. But then it's Thorin who realizes this, right? Oh no, Bifor does it first. Bombor and Beaufort, they haven't been drawn up yet.
Yeah.
This door in front of this door, this doorstep that they're on. There's a cliff, and then they had to pull all the supplies up by ropes and everybody up. And Bombor doesn't want to come up because he's too fat, and uh, and Beaufort stays with him. They're because they're brothers,
Yeah.
and they have to get up quickly. And it's Thorin that, well, actually, because they're all yelling. The dwarves say, "We can do nothing."
Yeah. Too bad.
Thorin. Thankfully, Thorin does this, and it's not Bilbo, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
Bilbo's coming up with everything. Or at least Thorin comes up, he says, nonsense, recovering his dignity.
Hmm.
We cannot leave them. Mr. Baggins and Balin, you two, Philly and Killy, the Dragon Hat shouldn't have all of it. You guys get in the tunnel. We're going to get the others up. And that's what they do. They get the ropes and they bring them up. And this was hinted at before when in the chapter previous when Bombor's like he would regret this
About
decision,
Bomber. Yeah.
to stay down there. They and Thor, and I think it's important that we see Thorin, recover his dignity.
Yeah. That's how it says it. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
does it. He does it here and there through it when he goes and when the trolls get everybody and Thorin comes last and he puts up a good fight. He has the sword Orcrist at one point and he
Hmm.
fights that. His the way he deals with the wood elves. He shows that he is has some kind of mettle, some kind of leadership capabilities. That he is the most capable of the dwarves. Uh,
Hmm.
so Smaug thinks that guess from the ponies that he saw that it must have been Lakemen men had come up from the river and lake, and uh and then dragons. He would not forget or forgive the theft, not if 1,000 years turned him to smoldering stone.
Hmm.
But he could afford to wait. Slow and silent, he crept back to his lair and half closed his eyes. I mean, he was interrupted. He was having a nap. So
It was night, and dragons seem to prefer to be out at night.
yes. Well, the dwarves debate. Of course, well, they have to have a conference.
Yeah.
Now, what are we going to do? Um, and uh, and then they blame Bilbo for bringing away a cup and stirring up Smaug's wrath. And Bilbo again is like, yes, he never takes it from these guys,
Yeah.
which is great. And what else do you suppose a burglar is to do? He says angrily. And it's not my. Yeah, like you get 500 burglars, it doesn't make a difference. This is you hired me to do something. I did it, and he tells them what's what, and they apologize.
Yeah.
Um, and then they do what they always do. Um, they beg his pardon. What then do you propose we should do, Mr. Baggins? Yes, Thorin politely.
Politely.
Um, he has to get them out of this mess again. We get and we hear this, from the narrator with Bilbo's, that he is the leader now. Well, first he has another saying: "Every worm has his weak spot," as my father used to say, though I'm sure it was not from personal experience.
Yeah.
And already they had come to respect little Bilbo, but now he had become the real leader in their adventure. He had begun to have ideas and plans of his own. Well, sorry to tell you, dwarves, he has already been the real leader for some
Yeah.
time now.
Yeah.
um, Perhaps you're just recognizing that, but he has been your leader for some time. Um,
Hmm.
Now we get to the second time that he goes down, and here's when we'll see the picture. Yeah, let's just look at it. Where is it? Absolutely astoundingly beautiful picture. Frequently everyone's favorite, picture from the
Yeah.
book. Although Tolkien's favorite was the raft
The
elves,
raft elves. Yeah. Yeah.
the barrels. Um, uh, this one, here it is. Here it is in our book at the Rosenbach. As you turn the page,
Ah, yeah. Very nice.
talking. And in the American edition, it does they don't have this. There's a conversations with Smaug thing that Tolkien had
Yeah.
put.
They
Instead,
take
they
that
put
out.
down at the bottom, they put a title, "O Smaug, the chiefest and greatest of calamities."
Uh-huh.
They put at the bottom of this. And it's a little cut off. You can see Bilbo's partly cut off
Yeah.
in and they put it on the back cover too, and it's actually not cut off on the back cover. Uh,
Oh. Oh yeah.
this is the back of the dust jacket for the American edition
Oh, that's cool.
that they recognize. Like, ooh, this is a great picture. This is gonna. The front cover is the Hobbiton picture. I'm surprised they didn't put this on the front.
Yeah.
And
I
here
th
it is.
I think it is on the front of some versions. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Here it is in all its glory. Conversation with Smaug. Bilbo with the cloud around him to denote his,
Yeah.
invisibility.
Invisibility.
Of course, he has these slippers on or boots that Tolkien had talked about being like, yes, he talked aloud. Yes, he got boots when he was at Rivendell. He's
Yeah.
had boots, but he's left it out of the text. Um, uh, the hat's silly. I find the hats and for the well, it's become silly in a sense because it's become this typical gnome elf,
Right.
Christmas
Yeah.
elf hat. But
Yeah.
uh but he's done it. But the all there he is, and all the treasure and the bones.
Yeah.
We can point some of these things out now because they'll be mentioned later.
Yeah.
Uh, this green one here, right? This is the necklace of Girion.
Yeah.
And of course, right up there on top,
At the top.
glowing away,
Hmm.
the Arkenstone, which we'll hear about
Arkenstone.
later.
Yes, it will.
It is this chapter, isn't it? We hear at the end of this chapter. I think it is.
I think it's mentioned
Maybe it's next
first.
chapter and
Maybe
I'm
it's
spoiling
next
it.
one. But it's just a name so far. It doesn't mean anything.
Spoiler, but you could tell this big jewel up here.
Yeah.
There you go. That's important. Um, and I love that he's added bones around here.
Yeah.
And
Long dead.
this it's I can't remember exactly. There's the symbols for the
The Tengwar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the rune for the TH rune for Thror and for Thrain. And this says something like, "Who touches this gold is a curse,"
Yeah.
like
Something
that.
about gold and then accursed be the thief.
Accursed be the thief. So, which is ironic, right? So,
Yeah.
but it's only ironic if you can read Tengwar.
Yeah.
Uh, Otherwise, it's just unusual old letters. But yeah, it's great. It's very cat-like, his face,
Hmm.
eyes up here. I like the touch of green in him a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
He is a lizard, and it breaks up the color.
The red. Yeah.
But this is what Bilbo is staggered by seeing is
Yeah.
this vast amount of treasure. I mean, this is, you'd be the richest person in the world if you had that.
Mm.
Well, Smaug is, because it's his. I mean, he took it. He's got it.
Person being, yeah, yeah.
He's
Although
on it.
he never spends any of it.
And then there's all the bats around the ceiling flying around.
Mm.
This one here, and this must be, is this the passage he came down? Because that's why there's air coming
The air
through it.
coming out, or maybe the other passage that,
No, this can't be because
yeah,
this has stairs. I don't think there was
yeah.
on
I think
that.
that must be the main entrance.
Um, but there it is. It's absolutely beautiful.
Hmm.
Uh, and it was published in the American edition. Um, and But not in the British first edition. It's in the second impression of
Second
the.
impression, right? Yeah, yeah,
They didn't. They was like, this book might not sell at all. We can't afford to
yeah.
color pictures. And then when it sold and got all the and we're like, yeah, well, we need to put the color pictures in for the next impression. So they
Yeah.
did. Um, Conversation with Smaug, which we are going to get right now.
Hmm.
Dragon's sense of smell is also an awkward fact that they keep. Bilbo had not forgotten or had never heard about dragon's sense of smell.
Yeah.
It is also an awkward fact that they keep half an eye open, watching while they sleep if they are suspicious. And this is what's going on. A sudden thin and piercing ray of red from under the drooping lid of Smaug's left eye comes out. He was only pretending to sleep.
Indeed.
Well, thief, I smell you and I feel your air. I hear your breath. Come along, help yourself again. There is plenty and to spare. Oh, great line. Trying to lure him in.
Yeah.
And Bilbo is I I I love the way he approaches this with the first with the flattery and then with the riddles. But with the flattery first is
Yeah.
he keeps his wits about him. Um,
Hmm.
he's not quite so unlearned in dragon lore, it says,
Yeah.
but it's really dealing with this, magnificent creature that he knows right off the bat. I have to, uh, get. If he's going to try to lure me, I have to make sure I'm on my guard.
Yes. Yeah.
O Smaug the Tremendous, I did not come for presents. I only wished to have a look at you and see if you were truly as great as tales say. I did not believe them. Uh, do you now? Said the dragon, somewhat flattered, even though he did not believe a word of it. Truly, songs and tales fall utterly short of the reality, O Smaug, the chiefest and greatest of calamities. Uh, he's really, bringing out the hyperbole here to make sure that he kind of gets on his good side because he's a
Yeah.
dragon. Uh, and he could just kill you with one breath. Doesn't even have to touch you.
Yeah.
Just a
He,
little, and you're
he
done.
he wants to make him a little bit curious first.
Mhm. But Bilbo knows enough about dragons not to do that. And
Hmm.
this praise and the dragon's first response is, "You have nice manners for a thief and a liar." Um, uh, this idea that a dragon's going to talk about manners
Yes.
and politeness, like rules of decorum. Uh,
It's it's fascinating because he's the only villain we've seen so far anything like that, right?
Yeah.
The trolls certainly aren't that. The goblins aren't that. The spiders can barely even talk, right? They're sort of animalistic. Um, but it's almost like this final boss. You know, you have to go up and more terrifying enemies, and the most terrifying enemy is usually almost like Count Dracula. You know, he's educated and he's
And completely, and yeah,
brilliant.
and arrogant, and cannot
Yes,
believe you people are actually fighting me.
and
Um,
incredibly evil. Yeah,
yes. Um, they finally confront Dracula before he escapes. And then, well, they finally catch him in the end, but when he
yeah,
escapes at one time, they catch him and he's like, look at you, like a bunch of like sheep in a row hanging in a butcher shop or something. He says to
yeah,
them,
yeah.
I'll have all your women. And then he runs out. That kind of arrogance that he has.
Yeah, we'll see that from Smaug too.
He's not the smart, snarling,
Yeah,
beast monster that you were saying. He's intelligent. He knows rules of decorum, but this arrogance of him is. Shippey writes about this so well in both. Tom Shippey writes about it in Road to Middle Earth and Author of the Century, that
mm,
this kind of difference in their language that they're using with each other, and Smaug, and it's a class thing here that
yeah,
for Shippey reading this, Smaug sounds like he's very, very upper class,
yes, yeah,
having to deal with someone so far beneath him,
yeah,
and is a little astounded by his behavior, and so contemptuous
yeah.
of of him, because he is so far above him.
But also just kind of put off a little bit by the fact that he can't place Bilbo, right? Because part of his superiority is that the fact that he understands everything in everybody's
Yeah.
place and they're all below him. But what's this guy though? I don't
Well,
know
and
him.
the funny line about it is what? I don't seem to remember smelling you before.
Yes, right, yes, yeah.
That's
Well, he's a
how
dragon.
he
Yeah.
knows. Uh, he knows the scent of people. I love that line. What do hobbits smell like? Well, they certainly smell different than dwarves. We know.
Yes.
So, uh, uh, but then now the riddling talk that Bilbo does, helped him once with riddles. So
Hmm.
he'll do it in some way again here to keep him from, number one, knowing him. And Tolkien grabs this again from Norse mythology with Sigurd using these kind of riddling answers when he's facing a dragon. Don't tell him your real name, you'll be cursed. Uh,
Yeah.
but uh, it's interesting how this plays in Lord of the Rings, the knowing a name.
Yeah.
Here, Bilbo's not giving his name. I come from under the hill. Oh, you read them.
So he asked him his name. Okay, you may indeed. I come from under the hill, and under the hills and over the hills my paths led. And through the air I am he that walks unseen.
All right, for those, right? Well, Underhill, because he lives literally. The address is
Under the hill. Yeah, yeah.
um where his address is, and under hills, he's gone through a mountain,
Yeah.
and over hills, he's also gone over the
The
mountain,
mountain pass. Yeah.
and
Through the air, of course, with the eagles.
eagles flew him, and obviously walks
He's
unseen.
got the ring. Yeah.
That's the ring. All right, he has more. Go ahead.
And then Smaug asks him, that is hardly your usual name. I am the clue finder, the web cutter, the stinging fly. I was chosen for the lucky number.
Yeah. The clue finder I like because it's a vestige of an idea that he has abandoned.
Hmm.
Clue, in this sense, do you know what clue means originally?
Probably did, but I can't recall.
It's the ball of string.
That's right. I
That's
thought it
what
was
it's meant.
related to that, wasn't it? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's, we talked about this in his original manuscript. Bilbo had
With the
taken
spiders. Yeah.
spider
Yeah.
thread and wrapped it into a
That's
ball
right. Yeah.
and went back to the path and connected it to there, and then went back and had it so he could follow the path, back, through the forest, through the Mirkwood.
Right. Which is
Um,
then cut out, though. Yeah.
but that has been cut out because that's what I can't think of any other thing that it
That
would.
would be clue. Yeah.
And you
It's
need that old sense of clue in this. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and Tolkien obviously knew etymology and all that sort of stuff. So there's probably almost an in joke there. But either he didn't notice it or didn't care when he went to,
Yeah,
you
or
know,
like to use it,
it just
still.
sounds cool. And Bilbo doesn't want to reveal too much anyway, so he uses sort of oblique things.
But it also may have been, I think, yeah, maybe he hadn't even made the change yet
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah,
in that next type draft. He might
but
not have
it's
actually changed.
yeah, and never went back. Yeah, there's
They went
numerous
back.
things like that.
The clue finder, web cutter, obviously, and the stinging fly, and chosen for
Yeah,
the lucky number. He's that's why they chose him. Uh,
right. Which kind of almost reveals something to Smaug. He's like, "Oh yeah, I know. You're 14."
that means you have 13 friends, huh?
Yeah.
God, there's more there now.
And then he says, um, I am he that buries his friends alive and drowns them and draws them alive again from the water. I came from the end of a bag, but no bag went over me.
That's my favorite. Uh,
Yes.
he buried his friends alive. But I guess putting them in
Putting
the
them in the barrels while they're still
barrel,
alive.
right?
Al-
Drowns them, throw them in the
almost dead and puts them in the water, but they're not
water
actually drowned. So he takes them out again. And of
and
course, he's a Baggins. Yeah.
he comes from Bag End.
Bag end. Yeah.
And no bag went over me
Mm.
because
Well,
not just punning on this, but also
no. Well, he never gets captured by the spiders, unlike everybody else, right? Wrapped up. And then
the trolls. The trolls
and the
bag
trolls,
everybody.
they put all the dwarves in
Yep,
in the
yep.
bags, right? Yeah, yeah.
So there you go. And then the last ones, he is a friend of bears. We know that's Beorn, guest of eagles. And then I am Ringwinner and Luckwearer.
Mm,
And I am
barrel
Barrel.
rider. Yeah.
So um yeah, he won the ring. He won the ring in a contest. That's the first edition, people.
Yeah, and he won it,
He
right?
won the
Yeah,
ring. Now he did find it first, but it was still
yeah.
going to be the prize that he was going to get. So hey, well then I already got it. That's fine. He won the ring, and he is and the luck wearer. That luck is something that he has that he can put on. I don't think he necessarily means the ring here because he's wearing a ring.
Mm,
I think it means that general sense. I think of luck that it is like a thing he can put on and has. Um,
yeah, you can wear it. Yeah,
um, and the barrel rider we know.
yeah.
Um, this, of course, is the way to talk to dragons if you don't want to reveal your proper name, which is wise, and don't want to infuriate them by a flat refusal, which is also very wise. No dragon can resist the fascination of riddling talk and of wasting time trying to understand it. Um, uh, I still love the narrator stepping in and talking to us.
It's
So
great. Yeah,
it's
it's
all
that again. That dragon lore, even though there hasn't been a dragon around for a long time, and certainly in the Shire, but Bilbo kind of retains a little bit of it. And clearly, the narrator, no dragon can resist. It's almost that folklore about vampires, how they don't like to
Mhm.
like untied things and so on. You can kind of slow them down by putting messing
You have to
things up, and
count
they'll
things.
have to stop
Yeah,
and
yeah.
count them all.
Yeah, I've
That
seen that in
weakness.
folklore. Yeah, it's a good thing Stoker didn't use that. That would have been silly.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, let's pause here for a second. Let me take this moment to thank all of you for watching this episode. As a nonprofit organization, the Rosenbach Museum and Library depends on the generosity of friends and supporters like you to keep programs like this free and accessible to thousands of fellow biblioventurers worldwide. I hope you will consider supporting the Rosenbach and the show by donation, which you can do at our website, or by becoming a member. Membership gives you free museum admission, discounts on programs and courses, and early access to registration. You can learn more about how to become a member at our website. And I also will have a special announcement coming up. I'm just going to throw the tease in there tonight. There's going to be a special announcement coming up, but I have to finish putting it together about what will follow our Hobbit Biblioventures. Maybe next week, maybe the week after, more likely. Just a tease for now. Stay tuned. There'll be something really exciting that you can participate in.
Cool.
Something that you can participate in just a few weeks is the Rosenbach Canal. The If you're looking that every year the Rosenbach holds a very special fundraising event, the Rosenbach and Out, to support our mission to preserve and share the stories that continue to inspire generations, like The Hobbit. This year's theme is an American treasure with the whole American 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and we have vast amounts of American history manuscripts and books in our collection. We have a signature of every single signer of the Declaration of Independence. We have draft of the Declaration with Jefferson's notes on it. George Washington letters, John Adams, all sorts of things we have in our collections. And we'll be bringing some of those things out at the Rosenbach and doing different programs on them in the course of the year. But it's also the theme of Rosenbach and Now this year. There's a cocktail hour, there's a seated dinner, there are performances, and there's a live auction, and I'll be there. So if you attend, you tell me, and I have a drink with me. That would be fun. You can visit rosenbach.org, Rosenbach 2026 for tickets and sponsorship opportunities. All righty. Let's get back to our story. I love his line here. After Bilbo does this, or after we hear from the narrator about the riddling talk, I thought so last night. He smiled to himself, the dragon Smaug. Lakemen, some nasty scheme of those miserable tub trading lakemen. Or I'm a lizard. Tolkien thought that through enough to say that's what he would say. Like, is
his own internal monologue
response from a dragon, But Barrel has given him the clue, even though he already knew this. Like, he flew up, he saw the ponies. He already knows that somebody has come up from the town because there were ponies out there. And he even tells Bilbo, I know the smell and taste of dwarf. No one better. Don't tell me that I can eat a dwarf-ridden pony and not know it. So that sounds really gross, but
I know.
a dwarf must have been on this pony. And Smaug's like, delicious, thank you.
Little bonus.
But the one smell he could not make out at all, Hobbit smell. It was quite outside his experience and puzzled him mightily. This is what I'm fascinated with, and I almost brought it up in the beginning of the show, is that Bilbo is unique to almost maybe everybody in this novel. Bilbo is a unique. Hobbits are unique.
Yeah.
And has to be explained to everybody. And some people have never seen them or heard of them. And, but it's also just like us readers. Like, we've heard of dwarves and trolls and dragons, but we don't know what hobbits are because Tolkien. No, but it's also true in this world. Nobody seems to know. Nobody seems to have to be told what other creatures are. Right? It's like, oh, they're trolls. And like, oh yeah, that's what they. Yeah, I know what trolls are. And
you've never seen one, but yeah.
I know goblins and all. Beorn, nobody knows. Nobody in the company Beorn what he is. Just Gandalf. Like, one person does, Gandalf.
Yeah.
But he also is the only person that knows Bilbo too. Knows what hobbits are. But I find that, and it's something I hadn't really been thinking about, that we have to always explain what
this creature is, even to the other characters. I mean, the dwarves knew of hobbits, but they didn't pay them any mind.
Yeah.
And the other guys didn't know what they are, right? Yeah. I mean, literally.
Well, Smaug now comes his strategy. In which he starts to undermine Bilbo's trust in the dwarves. I suppose they gave you a fair price for that cup last night. Nothing at all? Well, that's just like them. I suppose they are skulking outside, and your job is to do all the dangerous work and get what you can when I'm not looking for them. And you will get a fair share? Don't you believe it? If you get off alive, you will be lucky. that, oh, I guess the dwarves sent you and they're out there, and I mean, he's undermine, and he'll continue to undermine the trust. And Bilbo, and even speaking of that, Bilbo was now beginning to feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um, Whenever Smaug's roving eye seeking for him and the shadows flashed across him, he trembled, and an unaccountable desire seized hold of him to rush out and reveal himself and tell all the truth to Smaug. In fact, as he was in grievous danger of coming under the dragon's spell. Plucking up courage, he spoke again. Well, what's he saying the dragon spell is here then? I mean, it doesn't seem to be something magical. It seems to be in the way he talks to him, right? Like it's some
Yeah.
psychological strategy.
I mean, dragons clearly have a certain power, which one might call magical, but it's spell, and again, going back to the etymology, just means, word or speaking, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so, and you see that again, certain characters have this ability that Tolkien explains isn't really meant to be supernatural in later works, specifically Lord of the Rings, but the dragon is just gonna, he's so greedy and so selfish, yet he's able to also use that kind of project that greed onto other people, because then it's going to divide them, which is a
Yep.
great weapon to have, right?
It's crafty. It's just it's there's it could be something magical if you're not paying attention to it, I think. But if you really look at it, it's really, I think he's just really good at choosing the right words to psychologically convince you to confess to him, right?
Yeah.
It's not that far from George Orwell's Big Brother going on here,
Mm,
is what's
mm.
happening. And in 1937, Tolkien certainly sees the growing fascist
Oh
cult of
yeah,
personalities growing in Europe about
clearly.
people, and he saw it in World War One in leadership, just
Yeah,
convincing people to go up to the front lines and
yeah,
be slaughtered. And now he's seeing it even worse all through the 30s, and all the fascist groups growing in the 30s, that are all about people convincing you, and these powerful, arrogant leaders
yeah.
convincing people that don't trust those people over there.
Right. Yeah.
You
Divide
know,
and conquer. Yeah,
so and I think there's a bit of that going on in this text. At least that's what's going on outside of his world, Tolkien's world, as he's
yeah,
writing this.
sure.
But Bilbo plucks up his courage. You don't know everything, O Smaug the Mighty. Not gold alone brought us hither. And then we get more like, oh, why not say I was 14? I mean,
Mm.
Mr. Lucky Number, a 14th share, I suppose. And then what are the terms? What about delivery? What about cartage? I mean, he's like really slick here
Yeah.
to
What did you think?
put all these little doubts into him. He had a wicked and a wily heart, and he knew his guesses were not far out, though he suspected that the lakemen were at the back of the plans, and that most of the plunder was meant to stop there in the town by the shore that in his young days had been called Esgaroth. That's the first time
Hmm.
we hear it's called Lake Town as
Yeah.
a name. And then you will hardly believe it, but poor Bilbo was really very taken aback.
Mm.
Yes, I would be hard to believe it. What? Bilbo, you're not going to fall for this dragon, are you? And he is. It's starting to. And it's that also that it's not just the don't trust these people, but it's Smaug laying all these practicalities of transportation of plunder, right?
Yeah,
Like
very
sounds very
totally
reasonable.
legitimate concerns. Yeah,
Yes. Um, Smaug is starting to make sense to Bilbo.
yeah,
He hadn't considered any of this stuff before. Now a nasty suspicion began to grow in his mind. Had the dwarves forgotten this important point too? Were they laughing in their sleeves at him all the time? I mean, this is a this is a moment here in the book that he could, like, everything could go wrong. Um,
hmm
if if he goes down this path, he's at a turning point here. That is the effect that dragon talk has on the inexperienced. Bilbo, and that's again, it's not so much magic
hmm
enchantment. It's talk, it's dragon talk. um Bilbo, of course, ought to have been on his guard, but Smaug had rather an overwhelming personality. Yeah.
Indeed.
So did they all then, didn't they? So all those horrible fascist leaders then.
Hmm.
Um, but he made an effort to remain loyal to his friends. And then he says, gold was only an afterthought with us. We came over hill and under hill by wave and wind for revenge. Um, that, and it's in the book, it is in italics with a capital letter.
Capital R, yeah, yeah.
It is the great, power, the great, I don't know what the gods or goddesses of revenge would be in Tolkien's universe.
Mm.
But that's what it is. And they are, going, he's by his effort to remain loyal to his friends. That's all it takes. You don't
Yeah,
have to then suddenly completely, oh, I don't believe you, and I'm going to fight you. And you just have to make the effort, I think, is
yeah.
what's going on in this to kind of not listen to what this evil person is trying to put into your head
Mhm.
is what is it called is wily evil talk or whatever those words were.
Yeah.
They and then but Smaug just laughs at this because
That's very hard.
he is, Smaug, the chiefest, of calamities. He
Yeah,
is that, chiefest and greatest of calamities. He has nothing to worry about from Bilbo, or, at least that's his belief.
yeah,
You know, he should, think of his dreams. Um, um, and Bilbo and to show that Bilbo's really kind of recovered here. Oh well, first he talks about himself, right? Um, when he laughs here, and um, and the language here now changes. This is not the arrogant upper class person here, right? Read that revenge paragraph there. This is entirely
yeah. This
language.
is great. Revenge, he snorted, and the light of his eyes lit the hall from floor to ceiling like scarlet lightning. Revenge! The king under the mountain is dead, and where are his kin that dare seek revenge? Girion, lord of Dale, is dead, and I have eaten his people like a wolf among sheep. And where are his sons that dare approach me? I kill where I wish, and none dare resist. I laid low the warriors of old, and their like is not in the world today. Then I was but young and tender. Now I am old and strong, strong, strong. Thief in the shadows, he gloated. My armor is like tenfold shields. My teeth are swords. My claws, spears. The shock of my tail, a thunderbolt. My wings, a hurricane. And my breath, death.
I mean, that's Old Testament
Oh,
language.
it's. I mean, I've seen a comparison between this and Leviathan, and it's. I mean, it may have actually been inspired by some
Yeah.
of that. I mean, Tolkien worked on biblical translation as well.
Yeah, and in Ratliff, he talks about, well, we know that Tolkien translated the Book of Jonah,
Yeah,
but some people think that he also translated Job,
yeah,
even though for the Jerusalem Bible, which
yeah.
edition that came out in the 60s, and this is much later in the 60s. So
Right. Yeah,
he understands this language, can you draw out Leviathan? Will he speak to you soft words? No one is so fierce that he dares to stir him up. What can penetrate his double coat of mail?
mm,
Round about his teeth is terror. His back is made of rows of shields, shut up closely as with a seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. Um, it just goes on. It sounds like somebody's describing Smaug,
yeah, yeah. It's very reminiscent of that. Yeah,
and it's in that elevated, you know, archaic, language that
yeah,
used for translating,
yeah. The
Testament.
warriors and
Yeah.
their sons, and yeah, yeah,
Um, Bilbo, and he says, Bilbo then starts to, now this is where he tricks him and he wants to find it. Oh,
yeah.
well, is there a weak spot? And he says, I've heard, that the dragons are soft underneath, though. What are you talking about? And I am armored above and below with iron scales and hard gems. No blade can pierce me. And then Bilbo's like, well, no, what does he call him? Nowhere be found the equal of Lord Smaug the Impenetrable. And they and he shows him the dragon rolled over, look, and
Yeah.
so and Bilbo sees it. There's a spot on his chest that is there's no jewels. So there's a weak spot I have that Bilbo sees. Um and and he thinks of it, an old fool, why there's a large patch in the hollow of its left breast, as bare as a snail out of its shell. And now Bilbo's one idea was to get away. Well, I really must not detain your magnificence any longer, or
Gotta
keep
go.
needed rest. Ponies take some catching, I believe, after a long start, and so do burglars. And he runs, which is an unfortunate remark from the text. It says, "For the dragon spouted terrific flames after him." Um, and never laugh at live dragons, Bilbo, you fool, he said to himself. And it became a favorite saying of his later and passed into a proverb. Um, that, he goes a little too far at the end, but it also shows that he's still Bilbo, that he has
Yeah.
not fallen under the spell. He made the effort. He still battled him. He still thought enough to, I need to find your weakness and
Yeah.
and succeed. He runs outside and he gets really burned too. The
He's
hair on the
singed.
back of
Yeah.
his heels is all burned off. Uh remember the his heels is because people remember hobbits have thick hair down their calf
Yeah.
and all over their
Which so did he have boots then or not?
well, again, no, he didn't, according to this, because his hair was singed off his heels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tolkien just needed to admit that, like, yeah, he didn't
Yeah.
have, I know, he shouldn't have boots on at all. So he's a hobbit. They don't wear boots.
Yeah.
So he's outside now with the dwarves. They're trying to, cheer him up. And there's this old thrush out there. It was a thrush that broke the snail, right? As
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Same thrush that
Mhm.
was knocking the snail shell and
Yeah.
the
When the thrush knocks. Yeah.
thrush knock. Um, uh, And the old thrush was sitting on a rock nearby with his head cocked on one side, listening to all that was said. We're told the thrush is listening.
Yeah.
Not an imaginary thing here. We're told.
Right.
And Bilbo throws a stone and it trapped that bird. I believe he is listening, and I don't like the look of him. Um, and then we get a little backstory for thrushes in the mountain and the relationship with the dwarves here. The thrushes are good and friendly, Thorin tells him. This is a very old bird indeed, and is maybe the last left of the ancient breed that used to live about here, tamed to the hands of my father and grandfather. They were a long-lived and magical race, and this might even be one of those that were alive then, a couple of 100 years or more ago. The men of Dale used to have the trick of understanding their language
Mm.
and use them for messengers to fly to the men of the lake and elsewhere. Well, wouldn't that be nice if that happened? There's nobody from Dale at Lake Town. They're just Lake Town people.
In fact, there's no Dale left. Yeah.
It was destroyed. So, all righty, next chapter, people.
Mhm.
That's when we need to remember this for. And again, I don't suppose there are any people left there that trouble with thrush language.
Mm.
So, would it just be called thrush? I don't know.
I suppose. Yeah.
Brushish? I don't know.
Thrushian.
Brushian? Yeah, there you
Mhm.
go. Bilbo tells them now that there is a bare patch in the old worm's diamond waistcoat. Um, and then they all have this big discussion, the historical discussion about how to kill dragons. Because they had to talk. They gotta have a talk. They have to talk about it.
Haven't considered it yet.
Have a discussion. Let's talk about how to kill dragons.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and while they talk, the thrush listened till at last, when the stars began to peep forth, it silently spread its wings and flew away. And now Bilbo is certainly troubled by everybody still outside here,
Mhm.
outside of the or are they inside? No, they're outside when they're doing that.
They're still outside. Yeah.
Yes. And uh no, he's troubled by, but he's also troubled by he says, "Oh, we're very unsafe here." But then he says, the talk turned to the dragon's wicked words about the dwarves, and Bilbo wished he had never heard them, or at least that he could feel quite certain that the dwarves now were absolutely honest when they declared that they had never thought at all about what would happen
Mm,
after the treasure had been won. And now it's I think it's Thorin's turn to be a little, short with Bilbo, even though he's never short when he speaks. Um,
mm.
I assure you, we are more than grateful. You shall choose your own 14th as soon as we have anything to divide. I'm sorry if you are worried about transport. I admit the difficulties are the great lands that have not become less wild with the passing of time. But believe me or not, as you like. Uh, that Thorin's like, yeah, don't worry. We
We'll take care of you.
he's got a contract,
Yeah.
and the dwarves are going to honor it. So he says. Uh, and the now the dwarves talk about their treasure. And this is kind of the magic of it, the enchantment of it that Bilbo had actually witnessed, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's a great hoard itself, and that they're talking about spears that were made for the armies of the great king Blidorthin, long since dead.
Hmm.
Blidorthin was originally the name of Gandalf,
Yeah,
in the
that's
book.
right.
And he found a way to bring Blidorthin in, even
Yeah.
though I'm not using it for the wizard anymore. I'm going to use this. I love this name. It's a great
Orphan.
name from that, from those from that list of dwarves names that he pulled out. Um, long since dead. It's just spectacular weaponry and a golden cup of Thror and jewels, the necklace of Girion, Lord of
Yeah.
Dale, made of 500 emeralds green as grass, which he gave for the arming of his eldest son, in a coat of dwarf linked rings, the like of which had never been made before. So there's that emeralds necklace that we saw on top. Um, and fairest of all was the great white gem, which the dwarves had found beneath the roots of the mountain, the
There it
heart
is.
of the mountain, the Arkenstone of Thrain.
It's mentioned there. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we can pull that up again and look at it. These are the things that they were talking about that I mentioned. Here's the emerald necklace in the center here.
Yeah.
Um, this is the Arkenstone up top. Now they haven't seen this yet. Bilbo has seen it,
Yeah.
and we've seen it in the illustration. But they're just imagining, like they know this stuff is there. This is, um, everything that's there. This is like a star right here.
Yeah.
Star. Um, shields, everything in here. This is what they're dreaming of now because they're dwarves and it's theirs. I mean, fair, it's theirs. So, well, some of it came from Dale, but most of it's theirs.
Yeah.
They, the Arkenstone, that's the biggest thing here. The Arkenstone, murmured Thorin in the dark, half dreaming with his chin upon his knees. It is like a globe with 1,000 facets. It shone like silver in the firelight, like water in the sun, like snow under stars, like rain upon the moon. Um, Earlier he had said it was a gem that they had found beneath the roots of the mountain, the heart of the mountain, the Arkenstone of Thrain. And it's an old English word, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Mm.
that's interesting thing about that because there was an Old English word, something like Bjorklatstan or Eknanstan, that means something similar, but Tolkien at one point used it as a translation for Silmaril, which
Oh yes.
is something interesting.
Yeah, Eorklanstan,
Yeah,
Anglo-Saxon means precious stone, and it's in, of course, Beowulf.
yeah, yeah,
Heitha thwatla weg Eorklanstanas offer either full Richa Theoden. Even Theoden's in that line there.
yes, yeah,
He wore that finery, those precious stones over the cup of the sea, that powerful lord or prince or king,
yeah,
Theoden. Um, but Eorklanstanas. Um, and it's also in one of the Old Norse Eddas that he came across the same word, Eorklanstan, and yes, in the Cimmerillion he uses at one point. Even where is it? The quote. Oh, the description is very similar to to one of the Cimmerels I have
Yeah.
here. Yes, is that what you said?
Yeah, but also one work somewhere, Tolkien translates part of the Silmarillion into Old English, and he calls Silmaril Yorkland Thanos, or Holy Stones,
Yeah,
which is,
he translated the some of the Annals of Valinor.
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Plus
yeah,
X. Yeah, and then the word for Cimmerils is Eorclan Stanos.
yeah.
There we go. All righty. The Arkenstone's important, and Thorin wants it.
Yes.
And Bilbo now is though feeling considerably. He's not. I love that he didn't. He's not falling for the treasure as much as the staggerment of seeing the treasure before, and he had no words for it. Now, after the experience with the dragon, it says the enchanted desire of the horde had fallen from
Mm,
Bilbo. It is, not the most important thing for him
not
anymore.
anymore. Yeah, he's over it.
He faced the dragon, people. So, and he's still so worried about being outside. He keeps telling him, shut the door. Shut the door. We need to get in. Shut the door. Get in the tunnel. Shut the door. Finally they do. And they push and he's like, close the door, close the door. They close the
Barely.
and there's no keyhole. They're shutting the mountain, but not a moment too soon.
Mm.
They heard the roar and rumble of Smaug's fury as he now comes out at night and he's, knocking the mountain to pieces. Um, and um, and they could hear the avalanche come down the side of the mountain, and we get the end. Gotta read the end after he had left, after he had let off his rage.
Okay. After he had let off his rage in this way, he felt better, and he thought in his heart that he would not be troubled again from that direction. In the meanwhile, he had further vengeance to take. Barrel rider, he snorted. Your feet came from the water side, and up the water you came without a doubt. I don't know your smell, but if you were not one of those men of the lake, you had their help. They shall see me and remember who is the real king under the mountain. He rose in fire and went away south towards the running river.
Poor people.
They don't know what's coming.
They don't know. Well, and they were all like, "Yeah, go for it, go
Yeah,
kill."
sure. Good luck, guys.
So, they and that's yeah. So now it's well, you'll see people and read like it's like, oh, turn the page. What happened? Well, what happens next? Well, you'll find out. You might have to wait. Um, they it's brilliant the way he structures the last,
The last little, yeah, a few chapters.
the
Yeah.
whole for the rest of the book now. It's fascinating the way he structures it. But they but that was the drag, and I felt like I gave more lines of this than I have usually, but it's so strong.
The dialogue is great. Yeah.
Between them, what Tolkien, is saying about Bilbo, what, about the dragon. This is just this very key chapter here as we're, kind of we've only got four. I mean, we have more than four chapters, but we
Yeah.
have four episodes to go, everybody. Four
Yeah.
episodes to go.
It's it's interesting how such a key character is introduced relatively late in the book, right? He was the goal of the whole quest, but he only kind of shows up
I mean,
now.
it seems there's actually seven of the 19 chapters left.
Mm, mm,
Seems like a good chunk, but it
mm.
feels like in the way the story's going
Yeah.
that we're hitting the end. It's just a little more extended
There's
than
more
I
than we might think. Yeah. Yeah.
might realize to going
And
on.
it's not like Lord of the Rings if you've read that, where there's like this really kind of long extended ending. It's not this. There's still stuff that had to go on here.
It's important. Everything that
Yeah.
happens from here on out is
Yeah.
important. So, and we got a dragon. Finally, we get the dragon. So,
Yeah. What a dragon.
love the dragon. So, I mean, I don't love Smaug. I don't want him to murder people
Right.
like,
I don't want to meet him probably.
but I just think all those ideas that Tolkien had about dragons, and he's using them in in his great mythology,
Yeah,
in the Silmarillion and Glorund and
yeah,
Calagon the Black, but this is the th like this is the one he gets it. Smaug is his
yeah.
greatest dragon creation. Um, uh, in this book. It's so tremendous, and for him to pour all of that because he's a character. He's not just this great force. He is a character, and you can really read lots of psychology in him and what he's about.
Hmm.
And I don't think there's anything much for that we can do with the Thames book tonight. It's
The only thing I would
go.
you brought it up briefly, but they yeah. So if you have read, those of you who have read the Silmarillion or any of its versions, there's the dragon called the Father of Dragons in that Glorund or Glaurung as he's later called. And Glaurung is an interesting kind of antecedent to Smaug, who Tolkien wrote first. Glaurung can't fly, but other than that, he's probably even more malevolent and powerful than Smaug. And I mean, the story in which he features prominently, the Children of Hurin, is far darker than anything we're going to get in The Hobbit. So his kind of machinations and stratagems and deceit are way, way more kind of gruesome than
Yeah.
what we see with Smaug. But there are some interesting kind of parallels there in how he uses people against each other and seeks to do that.
True.
And
Is that maybe I was a little too quick to say like this is the greatest because now that I'm remembering those scenes of him talking and what he leads the characters to do,
yeah,
pretty
um,
significant.
and there's a whole in that
So
particular.
grim. So grim.
It's very grim. It's unusual for Tolkien, really. There's not a lot of hope in that story, but he's playing off of Sigurd and also Kullervo, the Finnish story, and probably also Oedipus a little bit. And there's interesting things going on there. But that story has a lot more to do with fate as well, which you don't really have here, except for the luck part. But it's just kind of hinted at. But if you like Smaug as a character, read Glaurung because he's terrifying, but he's a great character as well.
And you can get that Children of Hurin in
In a kind of novel form, yeah, a standalone.
nice
Yeah,
little edition that they put it together with
yeah.
it. It's kind of the different, yeah, it's a different text put together from over the years.
It's not as fragmentary as the History of Middle Earth series, where you get a lot of um, commentary by Christopher Tolkien on the different manuscripts. He edited this together, but it's readable as a story. He had to take bits of different versions and put it together, but it's really readable like one kind of epic novel.
I completely forgot. I reviewed this for the
Did you?
Philadelphia Inquirer when it came out. I completely
Hmm.
forgot that. When back in the day when I was a book reviewer, I
Uh-huh.
remember that. Now I'm just seeing these notes here about that. I was like, huh, how about that? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could look up my review,
Yeah. Yeah.
Philadelphia Inquirer back in whenever it came out, and
2007 or 8 or something.
yeah, that's what had of it. That's when I was raised, 2007. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
reviewing books then. So there is a review somewhere in the Philadelphia Inquirer's archive,
Okay.
me reviewing Children of Huron. So I wonder what I thought about it.
Yeah.
I don't
Find
remember
out.
anything of it. I can read that review now and be like, who wrote that?
Oh,
I have no
yeah.
idea. I don't remember any of those words.
You know, have you read that Stephen King doesn't remember like a whole bunch of his books,
Why would
apparently?
you? Yeah, but if you read that much, you're not going to remember it. You're 100% going to forget.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course you would.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, all righty. Well, Ringwinners, Luckwearers, and Barrel Riders, thank you all for joining us for episode 10 of Biblioventures, The Hobbit. I hardly got to smoke my pipe today. I was talking way too much. I pipes at one point, not realizing it. I just picked up another pipe.
Yeah.
Got
It's
smoked the
it's
dragon pipe again.
all the talk about the smoke coming from the dragon, and
I
it's
could
in
have
the
been
air.
doing it.
Yeah. There,
All righty.
it's
Well,
coming.
Graham, thank you for
Thank
joining.
you.
You will return for just one more
That's
episode.
right. Not the very end, but near the end. Yeah.
Well, the
Yeah.
penultimate episode, chapters
Right.
17 and 18, the clouds burst and the return journey.
Yeah.
So that'll be nice to have you for those two
Looking forward
chapters.
to that too. Yeah.
Thank you, Brianna, our chat assistant, for providing links in the chat. Next week for episode 11, Dr. Sarah Brown will return for two chapters, chapter 13, Not at Home, and chapter
Mm,
14, Fire and Water. So how to put
mm,
those two chapters together. If you know the
yeah,
Hobbit, you know why they have to go together. So
yeah.
all righty. Thank you to all of you who have made a donation to the Rosenbach or become a member. We couldn't do these shows without your generous support. Your donations help us create more programs like this and also care for our collections. You could also become a member of the Rosenbach. Membership gives you early access and discounts to programs and courses. You can find out more at our website, rosenbach.org. And thanks as always to the Wincode Foundation. Thank you all for watching this series. Spread the word. I'm still getting registrations for this, so that's great. People are still
Mm,
discovering
good.
this show. I am Edward G. Pettit of the Rosenbach Museum and Library, never laughing at live dragons. Bye-bye, everybody. Good night.